Hi friends, welcome to the channel JIB and CIB Made Simple. In this particular video, we are going to discuss IIBF International Trade Finance memory based question along with explanation for the examination which happened on 14th February 2020. What trend do we expect in an import dependent stock market like India? So that is the question. So let's explain that the question according to the principle of market transmission. Suppose if a local currency undergoes a significant depreciation, so what is the most likely position or trend in an import dependent stock market like India and why? Option A has given it go high, that is bullish, it goes slow, that is bearish. Option C, it is neutral, that is no change, and option D, it go high. So these are the options that they have provided. So let's first of all break down the question in very simple term. So imagine that, let me give you an example to make it more clear. Suppose take the case of India, right? So India import a lot of things, right? Like crude oil it import, fine. Like, machinery it import, electronic item it import, chemicals, metals it import. Now what happened when the rupee fell? That is what depreciation means, right? When rupee fall down. So obviously India has to pay more. India has to pay more, right, to buy the same good. To buy the same good, India has to pay more from the foreign country. Let's suppose that $1 is equal to 90 rupees today, and tomorrow or after 10 days, let's suppose it become 95 rupees. Okay, so now you can see for the same item which is $100 costing $100, the country has to put more rupees, right? Because rupee has depreciated. So what happened, the cost of imported good will shoot up. Since they have to put more rupees, so cost of imported good will increase. So what happened, oil become expensive. What happened, auto part become expensive. What happened, electronic item, it become expensive. This means, company cost become increases. Company cost increases. So what happened? Profit will go down. So their stock price fall, right? That's why, their stock price fall, because cost increases, profit will go down. Profit will go down, so their stock price fall. So market becomes slow, market become weak, and market become bearish, right? Market become bearish. Now what happened, second thing, the impact of this, the foreign institutional investor start pulling out money. They start pulling out money, fine. So they think like this, that my investment are in rupees. If the rupee is falling, my dollar return will decrease. Obviously, rupee is falling, so they think that their dollar return will decrease, right? So they start selling Indian stock. What they do, they start selling Indian stock and take money back to the US. So what happened, this FII outflow, right? Since this is called, FII outflow. Why they take back their money? Because rupee is decreasing. So they think that they will get less return in terms of dollar for the same rupee value. That's why FII outflow. That what happened, market liquidity decreases, right? Market liquidity decreases, and obviously a stock price decreases, right? Thus the market moves against downward. Now why export sector alone cannot save the entire market? See, there are some export sector from where Indian export, like IT, like pharma, like textile, right? These are the export sector. So yes, they benefit because they earn in dollar. This sector, they benefit. Why they benefit? Because they earn in dollar, and since rupee is depreciating, they will get more dollar, right? They will earn more rupees, sorry. So the index, so basically, but India is not an export-led stock market. Please understand, to the context of a stock market we are talking about, it is not export-led, right? It is not export-led. So the index weight is dominated by banks. Index weight is dominated by, oil and gas sector, auto sector, automobile sector, FMCG sector, and metal sector. And all these sectors suffer when currency weaken, because bank FII inflow become less. Right, so these sectors suffer when the currency weaken. Currency weakening means what? Dollar is depreciating, rupee is depreciating. So the overall market cannot turn bullish just because exporter gain a bit. Yes, exporter gain, but this overall market, if we talk about, they do not go bullish. So what is the option number A say? Option number A say go high. Because exporter win. That is what it's saying now. That exporter oriented sector like IT and pharma will lift the entire index. No, that's wrong. Because India is an import heavy sector. And this import heavy sector, this will not get benefited because of this rupee depreciation. Option number B says that it goes slow. Yes, primarily due to a squeezed margin in the import heavy sector. Exactly. B is the correct one. C says neutral. No, no, no. Actually, this UIRP, that is called uncovered interest rate parity. That's called UIRP. Please understand, this UIRP is a theory, right? It is not a guaranteed real world outcome. This is not a real world outcome, right? So interest rate hike usually indicate stress. Please understand, interest rate increasing, it indicates what? It indicates stress. It never indicates stability. It is not stability. So neutral market is unrealistic type of thing. C is wrong. What about D? Go high. See, weak currency bring foreign money, right? Because the currency is weaker, like dollar is weaker. So it says that it brings foreign money. Actually, the opposite happen. Because when the currency is weaker, the foreign institutional investor, they think that, rupee is depreciating. So they will get less output in terms of dollar. So they try to pull up their money, right? So because of this FII outflow happen, our liquidity decreases. And liquidity decreases, the stock market will also decreases, valuation will decrease. So option D is also wrong. So I hope the answer is clear. So that there is a memory trick you can just remember. See, you can think of it like this: DCD. So what does it mean? Depreciation, right? First D for depreciation. This C is for cost. So depreciation is equal to cost plus dollar outflow. Depreciation is equal to cost plus dollar outflow. See, depreciation happen, what happen? Cost increases, right? See, the overall impact is cost increases and dollar outflow. Just remember these things, DCD. So when both the cost increases and FII outflow happen, market goes down. The ultimate impact is that market goes down, right? So please remember, what we learned from the discussion is that, see, what I try to do, I want to clarify every concept. You don't feel anywhere difficulty in understanding. See, what we learned is that India, to the perspective of India is an import dependent country, and if the currency fall, if the rupee fall, what happen? The higher import bill, right? Rupee fall, so what happen? Import bill increases, right? And obviously higher cost. So higher cost, it means lower corporate profit. Corporate profit decreases. So obviously, a stock price decreases. Fine. And FII exit the market. So this is top solution for your entire revision of the ITF, International Trade Finance. In this course, you will see a folder for theory and MCQ PDF, previous year question. Entire content is prepared as per the book referenced by the IIBF. Inside each theory and MCQ folder, you will see module-wise folder. Inside each module, you will see unit-wise folder. Inside each unit-wise folder, you will see separate theory and MCQs PDF. All these PDFs are downloadable. You can take print out as per your requirement. You can access on both WhatsApp on your mobile as well as your PC. In addition to that, I have added previous year question through which you can gauge what type of question have appeared in the recently held examination. So this entire thing is available at a very nominal cost. You can check out the description section of the video, the link I have provided, and also you can WhatsApp me on the number shown on the question that we have. So this is the question, right? Very important question it is all about. So basically, if a country current account deficit become very large under a flexible exchange rate, what is most likely to happen? That is what the question is all about. So suppose there is a country CAD, CAD, current account deficit. So suppose it is weakening significantly. So which of the following scenario is most likely to occur in the domestic economy under a flexible exchange rate regime? All these words that I have highlighted are very, very important. Okay, it's widening. Now, option number A, currency appreciation. Option number B, capital account surplus requirement. Option number C, automatic inflation reduction. And option number D, decrease external debt. So these are the four options that they have provided. So let's go through each and every option in detail. So first of all, let's understand. Let's imagine the country like a person, right? So you can imagine the country like a person who is managing the monthly expense. Who is managing the monthly expense. Now, what is this CAD? CAD, it stands for, current account deficit. See, CAD happen, when it happens, CAD, when we are buying, basically it happen when we are buying money from foreign country. Suppose we are buying money from foreign country, right? Then we are earning from them, right? So we are buying money more, we are buying more money from foreign country as compared to we are earning from them. Two words are there, buying and earning. You know the difference between them? See, current account deficit when it happen, when we borrow more money from the foreign country as compared to earning. What does it mean? It simply means that more import. So import is just kind of buying, right? less export. See, if you export, you are earning. You are not doing that much export. And obviously because of these two reasons, money is going out. Or suppose more money is going out. So now the country has a payment gap. Now the question is how this gap will be filled. Who will fill this gap? Right? So obviously to fill this gap, obviously I think the concept is clear from where the gap originate. Now there is a gap, So, the foreign capital is there. Please remember, foreign capital is there to fill the gap. So just like a person taking a loan, if monthly expense exceed the salary, obviously, suppose your expense is more than the salary. So what you will do? You will take loan. Similarly, country must bring money through the capital account, right? Country must bring money through the capital account. So basically capital account, such as there are some capital account, let me name a few, like FDI. FDI is called, foreign direct investment. Here, foreign company invest in India. FII. FII, foreign stock market investment. External loan country can take, or they can do NRI deposit. Yes, NRI deposit also brings money. So basically what happened, when CAD widen, the country must attract capital account surplus. The country must attract the capital account surplus. So this keep the balance of payment equal, right? So because this BOP, that is called balance of payment, it must balance always, right? If current account is negative, so capital account must be positive. Obviously there is a deficit. You miss import is happening more than export. So obviously there is a deficit. To balance this deficit, or to equalize, to neutralize this deficit, what we do? We basically, there should be current account, right? Capital account must be there. Capital account must be there in form of FDI, FII, external, this external loan, it may be taken, or NRI deposit. Now let's look at the option that they have provided. Option number A says, the question was all about what should be done, right? Occur in the domestic economy. See, option number A says currency appreciation. What do you think about it? Will currency appreciate in a domestic economy under flexible rate when the CAD is widening? See, when I say currency appreciation, see, think about it. If the CAD is higher, what will happen to the currency? Just imagine that CAD is very high. So obviously CAD is very high. It means demand for dollar increases. Demand for dollar, because dollar increases, because if dollar comes in, obviously it will neutralize the CAD. So high demand for dollar, it means our rupee will depreciate, right? It will not appreciate. So because a more import will happen, more need for foreign currency, obviously rupee will fall. So option number A is wrong, right? What about B? Capital account surplus requirement. Yes, correct. B is the correct one, right? Obviously the country must attract a corresponding inflow in the capital account. Yes, they can inflow in the capital account must be attracted in form of FDI, FII loan to balance the BOP. Yes, B is correct. What about C? C says automatic inflation reduction. So that says that inflation reduces automatically. No, that's wrong. Because if CAD is higher, it often includes high import bill. High CAD, it means import bill is high, especially oil, right? So high oil import, higher domestic price, imported inflation, right? Think about it. CAD is high. What does it mean? Import bill is high. When import bill is high, so it means domestic price will also be high. Domestic price is high. That's obviously inflation will increase. So inflation usually increases, not decreases the CAD, right? C is wrong. What about D? D says that decrease external debt. Think about it. Opposite. Actually, it is opposite. Why? Because if CAD is higher, country borrow more or uses the forex reserve. So external debt decreases. Sorry, external debt increases, because once the country uses the forex reserve, in that case debt increases, not decreases. So there is a memory trick you can just use to remember all these things that you can see. Trick is the CAD. CAD means need cash from abroad. Remember it. CAD means need cash from abroad. So cash attract demand. This way you can think of it. Cash attract demand. Okay. So what happened? If CAD widen, if CAD increases, the country must attract cash. Country must attract cash from the foreign investor or the lender, right? If it is from lender, then it's called loan. If it's from foreign investor, it may be FDI or it may be FII. I think the difference between these two, right? So CAD simply means you bring the capital in, that's it. So what we learned from this discussion is that CAD means India is spending more foreign currency than compared to its earning. Means it means buying is more than obviously earning. So BOP must balance of payment must balance. CAD must be funded by the capital account inflow. So how to fund this CAD? It must be funded by the capital account inflow. Higher CAD, rupee depreciate, external borrowing plus FDI, FI. I think this thing we have repeated several times. So I hope everything is crystal clear. Now have a look at the next question. Please hit the like button if you really think that this video is adding value to your preparation. Now one numerical based question. Let's try one numerical based question. See, in this particular PDF, we have a mix, right? We have a combo of theoretical numerical question that will help you understand the concept deeply. So basically, you know what is happening here. There is an exporter named is Sunrise Export Private Limited, which is a Jaipur based exporter, right? It sell goods worth $1 lakh, right? Invoice value is $1 lakh to the US buyer. Obviously buyer is in the USA, fine. But the buyer, you know, the bank negotiate the bill at, you can see the data they have given that exchange rate or negotiation rate is 83 rupees per dollar. So this is the negotiation rate, and it pay the exporter immediately. It pay the exporter immediately, right? But you know the buyer delays, right? But what happened, you know, buyer delays. So what happened, you know, after due date plus 30 days, right? The bank crystallizes that because buyer is delaying, and this is in the dollar. So what bank does? Bank crystallizes it, right? Crystallizes. So just this will not be given in the examination. I have given it for your understanding purpose. So after due date plus bank wait for 30 days, right? And bank crystallizes the bill at the new rate. What is the rate of crystallization? You can see exchange rate on due date is much, and crystallization rate is TT buying rate. So see, they will not also mention, they will just give you TT buying rate. You yourself have to think what rate we should be taken, right? So but in this question they have explicitly mentioned that crystallization rate, exchange rate is this much, 84.20 rupees per dollar. So what we need to find, so on the basis of the data we need to find that with two things. First of all, that how much rupees are debited to the exporter on crystallization, right? So that's the first question. What should be the amount debited to the rupee account of the Sunrise Export Private Limited? And the second thing is what exchange rate gain or loss the exporter get. Very good question. It actually summarizes everything regarding crystallization. So there are 4 options they have provided. I request you to please pause the video. See, these things you have to use: negotiation rate, crystallization rate, and bill amount. These things majorly you have to use, and you have to apply the concept and just tell me the answer. Please tell me. So let me explain in layman terms, right, what is happening here, so that if you have not seen this, if you know nothing about crystallization, you will be able to understand. I'm just explaining the concept from the, you know, scratch. So basically what happened on the negotiation date. So when is the negotiation date? So negotiation date is 1st January 2024. So basically on the negotiation date, this exporter, he submit the document. He has done the shipment. The document he have like bill of lading, he submitted to the AD bank. So bank, what bank does? So obviously he submitted the invoice, or you call it the bill, right? So bank buy the bill. So this bill is bought by the bank. Fine. At which rate? At the negotiation rate. At the rate 83 rupees per dollar. Fine. So bank pay the exporter how much? So total bill amount was, I think they have mentioned $1 lakh. So you can think of it. So how much bank pay the exporter? So this is called negotiation, right? Bank pay so bank pay 1 lakh. This is the total invoice amount multiplied by 83 rupees per dollar. That become 83 lakh rupees. Fine. I hope it is clear. So exporter already got the money. Now the bank wait for US buyer to pay later. That is what happened in the bill negotiation. I think you are familiar with this. Now, what is crystallization? See, crystallization, actually, you know, earlier there was a fixed time period of 30 days for crystallization. But now it is at the discretion of the bank. They have to decide. So actually, the Ujans period is 90 days. I think they have mentioned in the question 3 months. Let me show you where they have given. Yes, here they can see. Crystallization date is 30th April. Due date plus 30 days. Sometimes what happens, you yourself have to calculate the crystallization date. So due date will be given and just take 30 days, right? So that is after total is how much? 90 days. 90 plus 30, which is equal to 120 days. That crystallization date is 30th April. 30th April 24. Fine. So basically the bank say that the export bill is now your rupee liability, not a forex asset. That is the meaning of crystallization. That means this export bill is now your rupee liability. That's called crystallization. That means, it converted the foreign currency exchange is that what is happening, right? Rupee liability, not a forex asset. So the bank revalue so basically revaluation happened. At the time of, crystallization, what happened? Revaluation happened. So bank revalue the export bill. Export bill is revalued at that particular day rate. And what is the rate on crystallization date? They have mentioned it is, I think, just wait a minute. Okay, it is due date. Due date, it is 31st March. This is the rate. Don't take that. Take 84.20. So bank revalue the export bill at this rate. How much? 84.20. So basically the rate of crystallization is 84.20 rupees per dollar. Fine. So what is the crystallized value? Let's have a look. Crystallized value will be how much? So $1 lakh is the invoice value multiplied by 84.20. That will give you 84,20,000. Fine. So this is the new liability of the exporter. Obviously, liability lie with the exporter only, unless and until buyer pay. This is with recourse to the exporter, not without recourse, right? Unless and until without recourse is mentioned, you have to treat it like it is with recourse to the exporter. That means exporter become liable if buyer fails to pay. Fine. So, but the thing is that instead of foreign currency asset, now it has been converted to rupee liability by crystallization. But one important thing is that bank does not debit this 84,20,000. It only reverses the earlier credit of 83 lakh. So what bank does? Earlier bank has credited 83 lakh. It reverses, right? It reverses because that was the money already given. So the debit made to the exporter account is 83 lakh. Bank has debited this amount. Now let's compute the exchange rate or gain loss. How do we compute? See, the basic thing is that crystallized value is how much? Crystallized value is 84,20,000. What is the negotiation value? Negotiation value is 83 lakh. Fine. So what is the difference? So the difference is very simple. Just subtract both of them. That is 1,20,000. This is the difference. Since the rupee depreciated, now you look at it. What happened to the rupee? Earlier, at the time of negotiation, the rupee value was 83 rupees. At the time of crystallization, it has depreciated to 84.20. So what happened? Because of this rupee depreciation, exporter, every time the rupee depreciate, exporter. Hello. So what is NCR? N means negotiation. So negotiation amount is always debited. Please remember, negotiation amount is debited by the bank. First thing, at crystallization, bank reverses the old entry. So bank reverses old entry at crystallization. Then C means crystallized value decide gain or loss, right? So remember, crystallized value, they decide the gain or they decide the loss. So think about it. Suppose crystallization rate is more than negotiation rate, so exporter will gain, right? So remember, crystallization means what? Converting a foreign currency liability into rupee liability. Bank debit the original negotiation value. Bank never debit the crystallization value. And gain and loss, I think you have understood. So rupee depreciation, exporter gain, rupee appreciation, exporter losses. I hope it is crystal clear. Now the second part of this question, right? Second part of the question here we have. Think about it. This is the second part of the same question. Basically, the export bill of $1 lakh was finally realized on 15th May 24, which is the 15th day after crystallization. You have to calculate the overdue interest to be recovered from the exporter for the period from the due date to the actual realization date, and additional exchange gain loss on the final realization. See, so the option they have given. So these are the data. Due date is 31st March. Realization date is 15th May. Overdue interest rate is 14% per annum. Crystallized amount is 84,20,000. Crystallization rate they have given. Realization rate they have given. Bill amount they have given. Fine. So you have to compute the overdue interest and the additional exchange gain. So let's see how do we compute it. Let's first of all clarify the basic concept. So basically what we need to compute, that after crystallization, the bill is finally realized. What is the meaning of realization of bill? That means the buyer paid the amount. That's called realization. When it was realized, so the bill get finally realized on 15th May 24. So we must calculate the overdue date. Overdue interest. How do you compute the overdue interest? From due date till the realization date. Right. From the due date till the realization date, we compute the overdue interest. First thing we have to compute is the overdue interest. Second thing is the additional exchange gain or loss. Right. So this is the point. So first of all, let's compute the overdue interest. See, from the due date, when is the due date? 31st March. From 31st March to 15th May, there is a 45-day overdue. Fine. Why interest is charged? Because after crystallization, this become a rupee liability for the exporter. Right. If the buyer delay payment, the bank charges overdue interest. How do you compute the interest? I think you are familiar with the formula, which is P into R into T upon 100. Right. I think you are familiar. So now let's apply the concept. What is the P? P is the crystallized value. Because bank have converted the liability to rupee. How much is the crystallized value? 84,20,000. Fine. What is the rate? Rate is the 14%. How many day? Day is 45. Now we have to convert this day into year by dividing it by 365. We are assuming that 1 year have 365 days. Just put the value. So 84,20,000 multiplied by 0.14 multiplied by 45 over 365. So obviously that will give you approx 1,45,329. Right, that is approximately the interest, overdue interest. Fine. Now additional exchange gain or loss. Yes, let's have a look. Exchange gain or exchange loss. How do you compute? See, now let's see the crystallization date. See, how do you compute it? So crystallization rate, this is how much? 84.20 rupees per dollar. This is the crystallization rate. And final realization rate. It is how much? At the time of realization, the rate is 84.50 per dollar. Right. So what we are observing is that rupee is further depreciating. So the exporter get more rupee per dollar. So obviously this is a kind of gain for the exporter. So what is the difference in the rate? 84.50 minus 84.20, that is 0.20. So what is the final gain? So the gain is per dollar 0.30. Total there are 1 lakh dollar. So total gain will be, I think, 30,000 rupees. This will be the gain. So this is the exchange, additional exchange gain. So we have calculated the both. Overdue interest we have computed, which is 1,45,329, and the gain is almost 30,000. Fine. So I think now you can easily solve any question related to crystallization. Now let's see the next question that we have. So the next question is on your screen, as you can see. Yes, this is the question. I think this is the easiest question possible. Let me explain. So in a documentary collection process, the bank to which the principal or the drawer or the exporter entrusts the handling of collection as per URC 522 is called collecting, presenting, remitting, advising. Very good question. So basically you can think of the export collection process like sending a parcel internationally. So obviously this case is a kind of, export collection. This case is a kind of export collection process. You can think of this export collection process like you are sending a parcel internationally. Fine. So basically what happened, there is an exporter, and what exporter does? He prepare the shipping doc. Exporter prepare the shipping document. Now what happened? After preparing the document, he hand this document to his own bank. Fine. Now the bank then forward the document to the importer country. That is what is happening. So the bank that exporter trusts to handle and send the document to the importer country is called the remitting bank. Right, that's called the name of the bank is remitting bank. Please understand. That is called remitting bank. Now in the URC 522 there are some very important principle. There are some key terms that we must keep in the mind to the context of URC 522. What are the terms? First is the principal. So when I say principal, it means the exporter, or it means the drawer. The exporter or the drawer who give instruction for collection. Who give instruction for collection. That's the principal. Second thing we have is the remitting bank. See, the bank to which the exporter hand over the document. Remitting bank is the bank to which exporter hand over the document or collection instruction. So what it does, it remit or it send the document to the importer country. This remitting bank, it remit or it send the document To where? To the importer country. Fine. This is always the exporter bank. So the correct answer we have here is option number C, remitting bank. Why option number A is wrong? Collecting bank, you know, any bank involved in the collection process, that's called collecting bank. Presenting bank means the bank that literally present the document to the importer, or DP or DA, either payment or acceptance. This is the subcategory of the collecting bank. Now advising bank, though basically it is used only in the LC, not using the documentary collection. So one trick to remember is R. R means received from exporter. This way you can easily remember this remitting bank. Fine. If the bank received the document first, it is the remitting bank. I hope it is clear. Now friends, have a look at the next question. The next question is on your screen. As you can see, it is a very good question, basically based on the theory. Let me skip this question and yes, this question, have a look. So this is a practical question based on Incoterms challenge. So we are given 4 statement about basically Incoterms, that is called international commercial terms. A seller in Mumbai, right? There is a seller in Mumbai and a buyer in New York. They have entered into a contract for the sale of high value machinery. And the contract, the chosen Incoterms is CIP. That's called carriage and insurance paid to. During the sea transit, you know what happened? The storm damage. The machinery is damaged due to heavy storm. Friends, basically this in this case it was agreed CIP. So which statement is correctly identify the status of risk, cost and insurance in this scenario? Option number A, it says that seller bear the risk of loss until the good reaches New York port. Therefore seller must compensate the buyer for the damage. Option number B, the buyer bear the risk of loss once the goods are delivered to the first carrier in India, but the seller was obligated to provide all risk insurance coverage for the journey. Option number C, the seller is responsible for all the cost and risk until the goods are unloaded from the vessel in New York as paid to. Option number D, the buyer bear the risk from the moment the goods leave the factory in Mumbai. And under CIP, seller is only required to provide minimum insurance coverage. So these are the 4 options that they are provided. We have to identify the correct option. So first of all, let's talk about the risk transfer. Let's discuss the risk transfer. So under CIP, you know what happened? That is called, you know, carriage and insurance paid. So basically the seller, right? The seller pay for freight. The seller pay for freight till New York, right? Seller pay for freight till New York, but the risk does not stay with the seller till New York. Remember, seller pay for freight till New York, but the risk does not stay with the seller. Risk transferred the moment goods are handed over to the first carrier in the seller country. So when risk transfer the moment, right, goods are handed to the first carrier in the seller country. Fine. So in this case, what happened, you know, goods handed to carrier in Mumbai, right? Goods handed to a carrier in Mumbai, right? So obviously risk pass to the buyer. Risk will pass to the buyer. So what about the damage at the sea? See, if there is a damage at the sea, so that is the buyer risk. So good handed to the carrier in Mumbai, risk passed to the buyer, whoever is buying, right? So damage at the sea, buyer risk, not the seller risk. This is the biggest confusion that a student make in the C term. You know, in all the C term, whether it is CFR, whether it is CIF, whether it is CPT, whether it is CIP. That's why I have peculiarly picked this question, right? Remember, the risk passes to the buyer, risk transfer the moment goods are handed over to the first carrier in the seller country. What about the cost responsibility? See, even though risk shipped early, seller must pay for freight, carriage. Seller must pay for this freight and carriage to New York, export cost, main carriage charges. That is why exam call it, you know, cost risk split rule, right? So what happened, you know, cost goes far and risk does not. What about, so this is the cost goes far but risk does not. What about the insurance responsibility? Let's talk about it. Insurance responsibility. So you know, under Incoterms 2020, CIF, it require only minimum insurance, that is ICCC. And CIP require maximum insurance. Fine. So in this question, what happened? Seller must arrange ICCA risk insurance. Seller must arrange it. Buyer bear the risk after first carrier. Buyer can claim under the insurance coverage arranged by the seller. So seller will bring the insurance. That's why it's called cost insurance freight, right? And buyer will bear the risk after it reaches the carrier, first carrier. Option number A says that seller bear the risk to the New York. No, that's wrong. That would be the D term. If the question would be the D term, like DAP, like DPU, like DDP, in that case seller bear the risk to the New York. But it is all about the C terms. So you should be familiar with all the Incoterms, all the 11 Incoterms that we have, right? Then I think 9 in number. Then we have option number B. The buyer bear the risk of loss when the goods are delivered to the first carrier in India. Exactly. And the seller was obligated to provide all risk insurance coverage. Yes, correct. B is correct. What about C? Seller responsible for unloading at the destination. See, this is basically it's talking about seller is responsible for all the cost and risk until the goods are unloaded from vessel in New York. So it is wrong on both the point. First of all, understand CIF or CIP, it does not require unloading. CIF or CIP, please understand, it never require unloading. And one more thing is that pay to does not mean risk goes till destination. What about D? D says that buyer bear the risk from the moment the goods leave the factory in Mumbai. No, that is wrong. So CIP require only minimum insurance. CIF is minimum ICCA, that is the insurance, right? That is the point. So CIP means carrier plus insurance premium. Carrier, insurance and premium. Risk will pass at the carrier, first carrier in the seller country. Insurance seller will arrange, and premium is the ICCA, that is all risk insurance coverage. That is all. So friends, the remaining question will be discussed in our course. If you want to get